And so I'm going to be talking about some of the things that are mentioned here and tell you what we're trying to do. The title of this presentation is called Finding Solutions. So what kind of solutions can we find? So if you scroll down 5, stop right there. So I won't have him click on this right now, but the Nebraska Asthma Coalition, there's statistics on that particular page, and it will show you that even though Nebraska has a lower incidence of asthma than the national average, they have a much higher death rate from asthma and emergency room visits that are higher than national. And if you go to that page, you'll be able to see, well, you might as well click on that, and I'll just show you a couple of them. The top one, Nebraska Asthma Coalition statistics. So, and then scroll down until you see the bar graphs. So the Nebraska has a low prevalence, like I said, but then go down to the death rates. And you can see that has a lower prevalence of asthma. It consistently had a higher death rates than the U.S. as a whole for over 20 years, and nearly 800 adults and children have died from asthma from 95 to 2016. If you just scroll to the map of the United States, just keep going. Well, yeah. Well, this is just showing the areas where it's higher, and here's Douglas County right here. And then just scroll a little bit more. This will give you emergency room visits in hospital stays, but go to the map of the United States, scroll down. No, keep going, map of the United States. So you can see, well, you can't see, but this is the map of the United States, and in 2019, Omaha was number 9 on the 20 most challenging places to live with asthma. And so that has changed. They're not number 9 anymore. There it is. But if you can go back to that other page then, the original page, the tiny URL one. And then go, okay, so there's a couple of things that well, since Preston is here now, I'm going to introduce him and he can give you a little background, because Preston Love Jr. Leads historical and cultural tours of North Omaha. He's been active in that. I mean, if you even read some of the books, he was a track star in the day. Is that right?
I can't remember.
And he's been instrumental in our response to OPPD, because what happened is that there was supposed to be an outreach, and that was because of a resolution that OPPD passed. Eric Williams introduced. He happens to be my representative for OPPD, and it said there needs to be an outreach to the North Omaha community, to public health, to education, and we didn't feel that OPPD as a whole was responding to the way that resolution was written. So what we did then is say, well, who have you talked to? And then we found out, and you'll see articles on this webpage that shows that first article that came out and said, well, we think you missed these groups, like you missed churches, and you missed the NAACP, and so on down the line. And then that was our effort. And then Preston organized meetings with officials from OPPD to talk about some of the issues. So like I said, we hope that some time in the near future, by the way, that we're going to get the Sierra Club group together and take the tour with you leading that, and we'll talk more about that later. But Preston has been the one, he's gotten a lot of media attention because he knows the history and the culture of North Omaha. And so I will turn it over to you. If you come up to the pure.
I've already had this meeting. It was on the other side of the building. And let me say hello to the participants that are on the Zoom. I surely hope that by standing on the rostrum, I don't give you the impression that I'm making a speech. I'm really just here, and I mean that seriously, I'm just here to talk about this very important subject. So you stand, you have a rostrum, you think I'm speaking as a speech. I'm talking on purpose. I want you to see, I have no notes, no things. The only thing I have is, excuse me, have a little respiratory. Yeah, that's my speech. I can sit down in a way. I surely want you all to know, those watching for different reasons and coming out of different perspectives, that this problem that we're talking about today predates my activity, and many, even Eric, has been on the board for a certain number of years. Scott, I mean, sorry, you look very similar. Yeah, just the guy that looks like you. But that's, I was gonna say you kind of came a little way too loud. I said, I was gonna say, he used to be a handsome guy, but it's gonna be here all day. But, this is one of these situations where we as a community need to ask ourselves questions before we go too far, which is, what should we do in a situation like this? Maybe we should just wait and see what happens. Maybe that's what we should do. That's an alternative. And quite frankly, there's a certain percentage of the community is, in fact, waiting to see what happens. And shame on all of us. Because quite frankly, I waited to see what would happen on the first run, when many of you were active and in the face of OPPD in the first place, to get them to understand the implication of just affecting people's health, even if it looked like for the right reason for a generation or two, somebody needed to get in the face of OPPD and other situations that we have that come under the category of environmental. But be that as it may I make a reference that may not seem relevant, but it is. At my age, I've lived through a generation of many challenges to the people. Even the civil rights era was that. And I remember at the height of the civil rights era, I was playing football for Nebraska. And quite frankly, my focus was on first downs, not on the rights of my own people. And so, but I woke up about the challenges and became involved in the challenge. I say that to use this situation is I wasn't there with many of you who fought this battle earlier, and now I feel humbled to be doing what we all should have been doing in the first place. The analogy probably could really be made point by point, because there were promises made and promises not kept. That analogy was the civil rights era. Could surely, I could have some fun with that, and I then will take the right and make a speech. But right now, I'm just saying the reason that myself and many members of this community, I know Cheryl Weston is on the Zoom, and many others from the community may be, but this has not everything to do with one thing, which is should we sit back and wait and see what happens, or should we take the proactive stance of trying to make it happen the best it can? And so, and what is the problem can be summarized in a sentence, which is we are affecting people's health by the generation of power, and we have alternatives. And those alternatives are not being used. We have new promises, and we need to make sure that these promises are kept. That's part of it. I am here, and Cheryl and many others who are beginning to get the message about this. We have so many people in all of the city who are not even aware, or just now being made aware, that all of this problem with our health exists. That's crying shame. So part of my message now would be, one of the things that those of us who are in like mind need to do is to be sure we have more community meetings, more and many. The room should be full. The room will be full. It takes time to build up a need when there's basketball on TV, when there's TikTok, other things for us to do. We don't see the urgency to learn about something that is a little abstract, like toxic air that we're breathing inside and outside. And so we have a job to do to alert, to raise the red flag and educate. And when we do, will be more of us addressing this. And so I say, if I had I don't know how much time I got, my prepared remarks are about 3.5 hours. But I surely say there is 2 or 3 things on our mind, and I say our mind. We have formed a committee. It's called the ad hoc committee because we surely didn't want to give ourselves a fancy name, have bylaws and Robert's Rules of Order, and we just wanted to get together in a ad hoc sort of way to try to make a difference. We call ourselves the ad hoc committee. It started with a group of about 4 or 5 people in a meeting in North Omaha with a few people on Zoom, and now we're at least 50 people and organizations, and each one of those organizations has their own constituency. So really, if we did the math, I don't know how many, but at least 100 or so of involved citizens that are focused on this issue. So I say, number one, that I think we have the challenge. I have the challenge of trying to summarize what I think and what I'm getting and learning from the committee that we should be doing right now. So one of them I've stated, which is we should be actively pursuing educational, town hall, whatever you want to call it, for the community to understand what's going on. Those of us that are watching it closely, some of us are at different places, but we understand the bigger picture that it's not working for the health of the community to have toxic air being spewed out of smokestacks. That's number one. We need to actively pursue community meetings for education. Secondly, we need to, and this has been kind of a core value of our ad hoc group, is we need to demand to establish a respectful and trustful relationship with the power company. And I don't take any of those 2 words, trust and respect, lightly. It does not come with a meeting. A meeting is a meeting. A meeting to gain respect may be multiple meetings or never. And that is also true about trust. We're not going to be able to really work with the power company and make joint decisions until we first gain their respect, and I mean respect and trust, and vice versa. Not as pat us on the head or give us great smiles, give us great PowerPoint presentation. We need respect and we need trust. And then we can sit at the table and begin to talk about how we work together. Because eventually we'll have to work together in order to make meaningful change. And by the way, when you sit at the table in a situation like this, there's going to be disagreements. Those disagreements will turn out to be catastrophic to progress if you haven't built the trust and you haven't built the respect. So one of the things that we wanted to do with the ad hoc committee is take the time. Your natural reaction to this is to just jump right in the middle of it, start swinging, and I mean metaphorically, and confrontational, and ask and demand stuff. And that has its way, but I feel, and the committee has kind of worked together in a way that, yes, we may have to get there, but let's give peace a chance. Let's give trust and respect a chance. So that's where we are. It's a slow process, but we have started that. But that's the second thing on our mind. The third thing is, what can we do while we're in this period of transition, regardless of trust and respect? What is it that we could do right now? Well, one of the things that is not happening that we can use and make sense of is, what is the quality of the air on Thursdays? This Thursday, let's say. And what is the quality of the air here and in North Omaha and then in Florence? What's the quality and how is it relative to each other? And what is the volatile nature of it all? Well, what is that question? We like to have the answer. We have asked for that answer, and it's very difficult to obtain. One of the ways that we can do that is to begin to monitor the air quality. We can do that ourselves. And so this is the third thing, and I'm doing this ad hoc. But the third thing is, we can take the initiative to obtain air monitors and begin place them in strategic points and begin to monitor the air. May I say to all of you all who are watching and here in the room, that did you know that that's what we're trying to do? We are under the effort right now to in the North Commercial Club, I don't know if that's the formal name, but the Florence, yeah, what is it? The
North Omaha Commercial.
Yeah, North Omaha Commercial Club, which is further north than what we kind of think of when we say North Omaha. We're talking a bigger North Omaha, but if you wanted to do it for clarity, North Omaha, and then there's the Florence area. But so in the Florence area, there they are, by means of a grant from the city, asking for funds to purchase about 5 to 7 monitors. In North Omaha, and where Cheryl Weston and I actually live, we're going into, in fact, one of the reasons that I'm late is I don't have enough money to buy gas, because I put it aside to help on the monitors. I know, I'm kidding. But, we're going in our pockets, and we're going to purchase 5 monitors. And I say we in North Omaha, actually, there's many others who are helping us do that. The monitors that we are buying cost, if you kind of put all the pieces of it together, about $350 per monitor. And we're looking at 5, you can do the math. And so we probably have commitments for about 3 of them. And so I wanted you all to know that, and that is a proactive measure for us to obtain them, have them installed, and then for us, it's a really kind of a very great technology, because once those monitors are placed, there's an application where you can look and say, does this mean my time is up?
No, it means
Yeah.
we're gonna tag team.
Oh, okay. So, I've seen this before and when I speak. Yeah, in fact, I've seen the whole audience, you know, but, so I want to say the third thing is we are and we should be monitored. The last thing I'll say in transition is that we surely need not to overlook the damage to people, economics, and the whole 9 yards of all the coal that has been burned through the years. We need to, that's gonna require us to have serious conversations with OPPD after we've got the respect and trust, because there is probably something that is owed to a community that has suffered for years. And that, the last thing, I did say the last
So
thing,
stay there.
yeah. But,
So I just wanted to point out John Pollock, who's also been working on getting the air quality monitors. And these are particulate matter that we're testing for. Now, OPPD at their last meeting, they put out a map, which is on the web page that you showed earlier, and it shows where they monitor sulfur dioxide, NOx, nitrous oxide, and some particulate matter as well. But part of the problem is as Preston pointed out, we don't know different parts of town. Now, why would it be different in different parts of town? Well, that's one of the reasons we want to have the monitors. But if you use the UNMC heat study that was done this summer, where they went out and they found out that in the Omaha area on that day, there was a 9-degree temperature difference in different parts of town. We suspect that there's going to be great differences. We already know in some places that there's greater differences in one part of the city than in the other. And so when they do kind of things to say, well, how does Omaha compare to Lincoln? It's based on one really good monitor that's at the health department, but then the others are kind of hit and miss. And so that's the reason why we decided we need to do monitors. And Preston already has the permission of Omaha Public Schools to put one at King Science Center. And this is one area where we certainly agree with OPPD in that they think it's good to have citizen scientists and STEM to have the monitors and teach the kids at the time. And so we agreed at the last meeting that, you know, we're going to put monitors, they may put monitors too, and we're not going to put monitors in the same place. We're going to cooperate on where those monitors go. So I just want to point out the heat study is on the webpage too, and it just shows how dramatically different. Now, I just want to do a couple of things, and then you can respond to that, and we'll probably ask Cheryl to respond a little bit too.
may I ask you a question?
You may.
That really is a transition to what I was going to mention as my fourth thing, but
sorry.
really do the expert. And that the other thing that we're trying to do is to urge, let's use that word, OPPD, to aggressively seek the many sources of federal and other quasi-public entities for grant money to do so many of the things and mitigate some of the problems. You can articulate to that.
That's where I was going next.
We stayed up all night last time we listened to this, but so I'm gonna kind of let you handle that, but that's a very important component as well.
Yeah, again, I'll point out that this website has all of those and they're at the top of the page, but you can also see the press coverage that was done before that, the actual resolution, all those things. But here's what the ad hoc group is talking about. First of all, there is $1 million EPA grant that goes to the Metro Omaha area just for asking for it. Now, that means, since it's Metro Omaha, that it's Council Bluffs, it's Bellevue, it's Omaha. $1 million, it's called the EPA Climate Pollution Reduction Plan. If you don't apply for the money for the plan, you don't qualify for the implementation later on, which is much more than $1 million. So it is vital that you contact where, if you live in the Metro Omaha, your elected official, and tell them, make sure that the metro area is going to ask for this money. If you may recall that originally when the Metro Omaha was talking about a climate action plan for the whole metro area, and then it ended up being Omaha only, and that they now hired the consultant and everything else. So that's the first one. The state actually gets $3 million, and we put a lot of pressure on, and they have applied for that. It's official. It's on the website, and they have asked for that. It's also called the Climate Pollution Reduction Plan, but that's $3 million for the state. Now they can farm this out. They can have UNMC do it. People who are good, hire them as the consultants or the people who actually carry it out. The big one, the huge one, is the I always want to say infrastructure, but that's another one. The Inflation Reduction Act. The state has to ask to be part of this also. So far in the press, they said it's not available yet. Well, it doesn't mean you have to wait to ask for the money, but let me just tell you what other states are doing. They're planning. They've got all things up. They know how much they're going to spend on administrative, what they're allowed to. They know some are creating what's called green banks. They're creating all kinds of plans for when they get the money, we're going to be ready to go. Nebraska is not there. At the very least, contact the governor's office, the Nebraska Department of Environment and Energy, and tell them to apply for the money. We have the state has a reputation, a history of not accepting some federal dollars. Look how long it took for Medicaid. We had to go to a referendum to accept Medicaid expansion. The Governor Ricketts returned millions of dollars for rental assistance to the feds because he didn't think we needed it. So we don't want that to happen with this. This is
tax money too, coming back to
it is our tax money coming back to us. Now, there are people who are in the legislature. They don't like clean energy. They don't like solar. They don't like wind. And one of the things that I have up there is what it does for Nebraska. But the web page is whitehouse.gov. Now, I know some of our elected officials are going to say, oh, this is coming from the White House. I don't want anything to do with it. So what we need to do is realize that there's things in there that can help individuals and help with energy efficiency. It can do small solar on rooftops that you don't have to worry about. Well, are you going to take up acres of land? The important thing that I think that resonates with everybody who's an elected official is saving money on your electricity, energy efficiency. The other one, and I put a link on there that is little known, it sponsors planting of trees. Remember that heat study I was talking about? Well, trees help tremendously with that. So if you emphasize those things that you think are going to resonate with your elected official, there's enough stuff in there that there's bound to be something that people like. And it's not forcing anybody to do anything. It's a carrot, it's not a stick. And if people say, yeah, but the carrot's saying we can't have gas stoves. It isn't saying that. It's saying you can get a rebate if you get an induction stove, or if you get a heat pump, air pump, heat pump. You can, and they could say, but well, why are you only doing that? The response that I would give was, why do you have so many subsidies for fossil fuels for so many years? So it's a time to get even, to say, we haven't been getting our share. This is our opportunity to get our share. So this group, the ad hoc group, where did you go? The ad hoc group is trying to do whatever we can to try to get the entities, and not all of it is IRA, there's the IIJA, that's the Infrastructure and Jobs Act, Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. So there's all kinds of federal money, there's EPA money. One of the things that the ad hoc group is doing, we're gonna have a meeting on the 29th with people from UNMC. They're writing a grant to the EPA, an environmental justice grant. And this is an environmental justice issue, as you heard. And there's many carve-outs in these federal laws and federal grant programs from the EPA that is targeted to communities that have been actually had more pollution in them. So there are communities that have been neglected, or they've been had to put up with pollution for a long time. That's exactly what the North Omaha community is. So we can get those money. We just have to try to get not just OPPD, but the city of Omaha, the surrounding area, and the state. Because even though the state, has to apply for the IRA, a lot of those IRA aid dollars come to Omaha because Omaha is the biggest community and there's more people that live there. So those are the things that we're trying to work on. As Preston pointed out, some of this is complicated. So you start saying things like, and even I messed up, the IRA, the IIJA, and the EPA, and all of these kinds of things, and people kind of gloss over. But, to me, usually when you say, $91 million can come to Nebraska, you'd think people's ears would perk up and they'd say, wow, maybe we should spend that in the best way we possibly can. Because of what happened in North Omaha, we want to make sure that they not get their share, they get more than their share because they've been subjected to so much pollution for so many years. That's why the carve-outs are for communities of color and communities that have been subjected to pollution for a long time for environmental justice issues.
Yeah, I would just add that point about complexities. They should be complex to people who understand the complexity, but they don't have to be complex to a community that's breathing toxic air. They just want to know and have information that is happening to them, and that they have trusted members within the community, in this case, North Omaha, that will interact with people who do know. So we don't have to think that we have the task to make everybody scientists. We just need to be able to do what is effective to communicate to a community that is what the problem is, and that the community should not just lay dormant and not be active. That's why we need to begin a pretty aggressive routine of educating the impact. And I'll tell you, communities will rise up when they realize the long-term and even the present term impact of this toxic air. We have it with OPPD. We've got issues about environmental impact within UD. We've got lots of things. And the simplicity of planting a tree and having that have to do with anything as it relates to your health is something that we need to be communicating. In North Omaha, for example, for the very first time, to my knowledge, we just constructed a trail that starts at 24th and High Elm.
Eric Williams helped with that.
Yeah.
That was Maddie and the other.
Yeah, but I'm saying, and without the person, but we surely thank you, Eric, in all seriousness. But the trail is breaking news in North Omaha. And on my tour, I stop and talk about the value of a trail to a community. Then without going through all of that with you all maybe know, but part of what happened with the trail is they just planted trees. So all of that stuff, if you will, is the new wave of educating communities because of the negative impact on things that then become translated into things that people are talking about without realizing the cause and effect. People all over the city are talking about health disparity. And so guess what? All of this will create disparities in health and health delivery system. We have to connect the dots, ladies and gentlemen. And so, it's not a sprint. It's a marathon, and we all are appealing for all of us and our communities to, in fact, just let's roll up our sleeves and stay at it. Sometimes when we get in these situations, the expectation is that we're going to raise our voice, raise the issue, and then go away.
Right, and sometimes, I think it was Jane Fonda that said, it's not a sprint, it's not a marathon, it's a relay.
Okay, well, that's it.
And you gotta pass it on
Yeah.
and pass the baton and keep going. And I wanna give Cheryl an opportunity if she wanted to say something. Cheryl, do you wanna say anything?
You really wanted to give me a chance to say anything? I didn't think so. The way you and Preston there were going, you didn't leave much for me to say or time. But just a couple of things. One, David, remember what I always said about those acronyms. That's why people get confused, because you go EPA, IRA, DTIA. We need to break it down and say what they are so that every person can understand. I also wanted to add there that, this is about the community and the people who are most affected by it, as well as those that cause the disparities and so forth, have to come together. And that's what we've been working on at the ad hoc committee, is to come together. I will agree, and it's hard to, with Preston about respect and trust, but I believe that respect and trust goes two ways. It needs to be given to, and then you earn that so that it will be given back to you. And I would like, and I don't know, David, if you could or not, or whoever, if you could, that letter that we could get people to send to their elected officials and the mayor and all of those that have, if they could pull up that letter, I believe you have it on the site, and email it, or even just email comments, requests to all of our elected officials, as well as anyone who can say anything in the community, or businesses, is please sign on and request this. Get some kind of way. We need to make it that $1 million, all we have to do is ask for it. And so we just need to make that available. And I think that's really important if we could get that out, because I believe, isn't it April 14th or 15th, somewhere right around there, that has to be in, David?
April 28th for the city.
28th. Okay, so we need to make sure, and if we can keep pushing that, I think it makes a difference. And the committee is working with OPPD to find other grant money to make sure that we're very concerned about having air monitors and cooling spots during the summertime. So it is coming where we are working together to try to make solutions and be proactive. And also is to keep watching, let them know we want to watch, we're watching. We want you to know that we're watching. We're not going to let this promise not be kept. It must be kept. And they can have all the other things that they want to say, but I just think that's important. And I don't know if you can, Clyde, if you can share that screen with the environmental justice flyer, would be great if we could get that out to people to know next Tuesday.
I'll double check the webpage and make sure that stuff is out there.
out there. That'd be great because that is coming up and that's giving individuals an opportunity to be at that table to talk and to hear from other people. So if you are free, and I believe there's a dinner, so it's not costing you anything, you might want to attend that for the reasons. And that's about all I have to say since certain individuals just took over the time. Thank you.
Is there somewhere on here I can scroll down to, or?
I'm not sure that it's on that particular page, so I gotta put the link there.
Oh, okay.
So, and that's Cheryl Weston. Cheryl has her own YouTube show too that she does on a regular basis that you might want to check out and just, what's the title of it?
Conversations with Cheryl Weston, and I'll put it in the chat.
Okay, thank you. Conversations with Cheryl Weston. So, I was on a meeting with people about trees. They meet monthly and talking about tree inventory and tree canopy and heat islands and all those kinds of things. And there were several people from MAPA on there, the Metropolitan Area Planning Agents. And they were kind of hinting that yes, Omaha was going to request $1 million. But you know, until I see it, like I saw it in writing for the state that they've actually applied, I think the pressure needs to be there. Because I haven't heard anybody, and if you look at that one link that was up there from the American Forestry Organization, they talk about how much money there is for trees in the Inflation Reduction Act. I haven't heard anybody else talk about that in the city. And so again, you know, it's not likely they're gonna run into too many people that say, don't plant trees unless you're saying plant silver maples, and then you're gonna get people saying, well, we don't want those because they fall down and they stop the power lines and all those kinds of things. But the right trees in the right place is partly what that is about. And they also help with pollution. So that's part of that other aspect that we were talking about. So I did put a lot of information on that particular page. Again, there's the tiny URL if you want to take it with you, or if you want to scan the QR code, it'll take you straight to that.
Chat.
You did that. That's it.
Oh,
You touched this wire and
yeah, the URL is in the chat, and I did the tiny URL so you didn't have to remember a long one.
Can I make an announcement?
Pardon me?
Can I make an announcement?
Yeah. So I can't emphasize enough that this is an unprecedented time, because most of the time, if you say do the things that we were talking about here, energy efficiency, clean energy, trees, the standard response is we don't have the funding. We do have the funding, and we need to use that funding. So that standard argument for not doing things is taken away if you tap into all these federal dollars that are out there and the EPA grants that are out there. And so, you know, the $1 million is EPA money. The $3 million for the state, that's EPA money. So, but it's still all of our taxpayers' money. We help pay that. We should reap the rewards of that. So I can't emphasize enough on that webpage. Right now, I just have asking the governor for the $3 million. I can take that down because I already asked for it, and I'll make sure we do the IRA. And again, the state and the city do not have to do everything in the IRA. If they say, well, we like the tree part, we like the energy efficiency part, but we don't like this other part, you don't have to do it. You can choose the one that resonate with the most people. So I think I would open it up if anybody wants to ask anything, and then Marianne will make an announcement. Yes.
didn't Sierra Club pledge to buy several of the new or the sensors?
Yeah, Beyond Coal has, and I can't remember now, because there's more than 10 now that are gonna be put out there. John, do you know?
I'm not sure the numbers, Sierra Club did, but both Nebraska also.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Between the two.
Yes.
Um,
Yes, Eric. Oh.
Scott, hey, Eric's, over there. Hey, Preston, you had mentioned that you had, conversations with OPS, to place monitors at a school. And I think you specifically said King Science.
I was looking at a map recently, and I wonder if Minnelusa and Elementary would be a potential location for student engagement in the STEM field, while also monitoring the impacts of power generation in the community. It seems that Minnelusa is particularly close to the North Omaha power plant.
No,
You might just want to repeat briefly what he said.
okay, the essence of the question is, I formally called up the superintendent and said, I gave her a little background there, and she didn't take much time to say, send me a request, and I'll probably approve it. And I sent the request, but only asked King Science because a couple of people had mentioned that would be a good location. So the question was, could we do other places, Minnelusa in particular? And the answer is absolutely. Had I waited, I guess I could have made a list. I just went on, but I think the precedent's been set that I don't think there is any pushback from the superintendents to do that. Because what we're talking about in many cases is attaching the monitor to the school or something, and maybe using a little electricity. But so that's the issue. But I would say yes, and I sure made a mental note that I would just go ahead right away and put that down.
Can I just interrupt you just for a second, Preston? If you remember, the commercial North Omaha Commercial Association or whatever it is, in their grant to request to the mayor's associations, has included those two that Scott mentioned. There's 7 locations that they did, and those two locations are in that grant request. So we're hoping that we will get that.
Cheryl. And I would mention that if there's a timing issue here that I want to make everybody aware, that mayor's grant, I don't remember the exact date, before it would play out that the grant proposal would be accepted, and then the money would come, and then the purchase. It's gonna be 90 days, 60 days for all of that to play out. What we're trying to do with the effort that we're doing is just try to get that started, at least with 5 pretty quickly within 30 days here. All we have to do is just raise the rest of the money. The magicness of the number 5 is we get a little discount if we buy 5 at a time as opposed to 1 or 2 at a time. So, yeah. I would also, as David comes up, want to mention just something that occurred to me as you talked about the OPPD and these grants. The grants and the use of the grant money is predicated on the desire to focus on that area. And so part of the role that we are playing and need to understand is we're trying to get them to focus and to want to get the grant money, not just for grant money, but to use it in a way that we're suggesting they use it. And one of the reasons why they haven't been aggressive is they in their mind got other things to do other than worry about the stuff that we have on our list.
Yeah, so just to point out, that probably everybody knows, but Omaha is also a Superfund site for lead. And so the North Omaha areas had to endure that, as well as, my own house that's been mitigated. And so, when you add, nobody's saying that OPPD is the only cause of particulate matter or pollution or anything else. It is the largest one. And so the finding solutions are those things we talked about, the money, the air monitors, all this, the planting of trees, but now having not just a few dollars to plant trees, but having a lot if we tap into it. So again, I can't emphasize enough how it's an unprecedented time in my lifetime that this amount of money is available. Not everything in the IRA is wonderful, but a large percentage of it is, and that's the part that we need to tap into.
I might add that Cheryl Weston was the hero that led the Lead Safe Omaha Coalition that helped get us made a Superfund site
Oh, yeah.
back
yeah.
in over 20 years ago.
And, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I had a question. I agree this is a problem, and I think the game monitors will like emphasize the fact that it is a problem. But from what you said early on, is there something that OPPD can actually do even if they find it is a problem? Or is there like a supply chain issue that you don't have what they need to change this over to natural gas, or what's going on there?
Well, I mean, the coal isn't gonna be changed right now, as we've already learned. But how can you help people to have air pollution in their own home and energy efficiency and save money and have, Cheryl mentioned just briefly, cooling stations. So like King Science Center can also be, they've done this in a lot of other states. When the electricity goes out, any emergency, or it's a very hot day and you have no electricity, you have no air conditioning, you can go to King Science Center. They would have solar panels with battery backup so people could go there. So those are examples of the type of solutions. And I might point out, I just want to compliment the outreach of some successes we've had. I already mentioned one, the $3 million for the state. That was due to pressure put on. Remember that David Bagley was up for the Power Review Board. And as soon as we found that out, we spread the word everywhere and we contacted the governor and he withdrew. So it does, we can make a difference. We have made a difference and we continue to make a difference. And I'll end with that, but I didn't formally point out that Eric Williams, my OPPD director, is in the back of the room. So thank you for being here.
Glad to be here. I did have a question on the grant. Is there a timeline for submitting that grant?
Which one? The
You
EPA?
mentioned about the ad hoc applying for an EPA environmental justice grant.
Yeah, I don't remember the deadline, but they're working on it right now, and we have a meeting to go over what they are writing into it on the 29th. So I think it's some mid or 20s in April sometime that it's due. And again, you have much better opportunity of getting the funds if you show that your community cooperates with each other instead of fights with each other. So that's why, you know, if you have the city, if you have OPPD, and we didn't even mention the health department should be much more involved in this as well.
Sorry, follow-up question. Have you had talked to PPD about that grant application?
I don't know. Well, I know that Aziz is one of the leaders on that. He's also the one that did the heat study. He's a PhD student. And we did tell him in the last meeting, we were thinking of doing it. It's just within the last couple of days that it's going to materialize, I believe. I mean, that they're writing it. We don't know if they'll meet the deadline. And, you know, like I said to them the other day when I used to teach, I'd say, be careful when you write a grant because you might get it. That's when the hard work starts. Writing it is comparatively easier rather than the implementation.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm being picked up by the mic, but Eric, the other thing is in the 3 meetings that we've had with the Javier Hernandez, we have talked about maybe the first one, grants in the abstract. Then we've got a lot more specific, and we questioned why they weren't, in fact, more aggressively going after the grants. The response was that we didn't know how aggressive they were, meaning that they stated that their approach to this subject was they worked behind the scenes. I think it was, and not going to public hearings and all of that. And of course, there was one among us who goes to every meeting who said, he questioned that because there was no evidence really of that. And so we've kind of put them on the, well, so we don't have a handshake, in my mind, as it relates to really what we're doing together grant-wise with OPPD, even though that is broached the subject. Would you agree with that?
Yes. Yes.
David, I'm not 100% sure if this is the same grant that you're looking at, but EPA runs a program called Environmental Justice.
Thriving Communities Grant Making Program,
Yes.
and the deadline for that is the end of May. So there is a little bit of time to prepare the grant application.
Yeah, I think that's the one, yes.
Yeah, but I mean, federal grants are pretty complex, so you don't start it on like May 27th,
Oh, yeah.
but there is time, even to work with community partners like
I
OPPD.
mean, these are people that were experienced in writing grants too,
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
that's a good thing, yeah. So again, I would point out the cooperation that when you show cooperation, you're more likely to get the grant than when you don't show.
Yeah.
Last call before Mariana gives her spiel. Go ahead.
But don't bump the wires.
Okay.
I forgot to ask people online if they had.
Oh, yeah, ask them to come off mute if they've got questions.
I just want to announce, I don't know if you're familiar with Inclusive Communities. They have a table talk program every month. This month they're having it next Tuesday evening over at UNO Barbara Weiss Center. They call it table talk because it started out as everybody sitting around the table eating, and they provide meal if you go there. This time it's environmental racism. I've gone to several. The first time I went to this hood, they have a panel of 3 or 4 people who are experiencers of whatever this issue is. This is going to be environmental racism. Then they have a little table discussion, and then everybody comes back. So it gives you a chance to talk and ask questions or talk about your experiences. But it also, you get to see people, hear people who have experienced this issue. So it's next Tuesday, March 28th. It's free, but you do have to register in advance at inclusivecommunities.org. I put that in the chat room. And it's at the Barbara Weiss Community Engagement Center at UNO. And there's free parking. You just go in where that little toll booth is, and they let you in right in front of the building for free. So, you know, I highly recommend any of these inclusive communities table talks programs.
And I'm sure you will be an advocate for the IRA.
Well, and Drew, our chapter or group chair, he works for inclusive communities. So he said he wants to do all these nonprofits, and he hopes to work himself out of a job, but I don't think he ever will.
But it will be on Zoom too, I believe.
Right, they can be online too.
Okay.
And by the way, we will put this on our YouTube channel once we get it all buffered and all of that kind of stuff. Did anybody online have any questions I forgot to ask? No, but there's one other thing that just came up. You might have seen that there's a new head of the urban land bank. And they said that most of those areas are in North Omaha. Abandoned houses, abandoned lots and so on. I mean, I don't know anything about this person yet, but
85% of the properties in the Omaha Land Bank, 85 to 88% are in North Omaha District 2.
There's over
so it
300.
seems to me like there's big opportunities for gardens, trees, solar panels, all those types of things. So that's something, another cooperative thing that we gotta look into in the future. Okay, well, oh, John.
I was just gonna ask, does anybody know if Precious McKesson is still in I think she was on the land bank board for a while. She's not, I don't know if she's still, no.
She's done. Question was if Precious McKesson was on the land bank board, but the answer was no. Okay, but they do have a new person, and so thanks everybody online, and thank everybody who came in person. And don't be afraid. I'll put that thing out there to write to the governor and the NDE, Jim Macy, to get the state to apply for the funds. And, you know, choose the things on that one list from the whitehouse.gov. Choose the things that you think will resonate with your elected official too, and let them know.
And there's no April program. Instead, the Earth Day Omaha, Omaha Earth Day will be that Saturday, the 22nd.
Earth Day Omaha instead of our regular Thursday program. All right, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Preston. Thank you, Shubha.